नमस्ते भाग्य महोदय, नमस्ते। हरप्रसाद महोदय आरम्भं करोतु।
ओके। ओम वक्रतुंड महाकाय कोटिसूर्य समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देवा सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति।
धन्यवादः। बहु सुन्दरम् आसीत्। महोदय, हरप्रसाद महोदय, भवानेव माम् अनुवादं करोतु। अद्य आरभ्य प्रतिकक्षायाः आरम्भे वयं सर्वे मिलित्वा माहेश्वरसूत्राणि वदामः। तदनन्तरं अक्षराणां वर्णानाम् उत्पन्नस्थानानि तस्य एकः श्लोकः अपि अस्ति, तदपि उक्त्वा एव अग्रे गच्छामः। यतः एतस्यां कक्षायां कर्तुं शक्नुमः वा न वा इति न जानामि। किमर्थम् इत्युक्ते पूर्णप्रत्ययान्तः समापनीया इदानीं। ततः किञ्चित् क्लिष्टकार्यमस्ति। क्लिष्टकार्यम् इत्युक्ते क्लिष्टम् इति नास्ति, किञ्चित् भ्रमः भवितुम् अर्हति। ततः किञ्चित् समयं नीत्वा सम्यक् रीत्या पठित्वा एव अग्रे गमनीयं। पूर्णप्रत्ययान्तः तु प्रथमं तत् कृत्वा एव सन्धिकार्यम् आरम्भं करिष्यामः। तो एतस्मिन् सप्ताहे वा अग्रिमसप्ताहे आरम्भं करिष्यामः इति अहं चिन्तयामि। परन्तु एतत्तु माहेश्वरसूत्राणि, तदनन्तरम् उत्पन्नस्थानानां श्लोकं द्वयमपि यदि कण्ठस्थी करिष्यामः चेत्, कण्ठस्थी इत्युक्ते किं, तमिळ् मध्ये मनपाडम् इति तादृशं न, नाट् रटनं तादृशं न। कण्ठस्थीकरणम् इत्युक्ते सुलभतया कण्ठे तत्र उपविश्य तत्र सुलभतया आगमनीयं। किञ्चित् तादृशं कुर्मः चेत् यदि सन्धिकार्यं यदा वयं सन्धिं पठामः बहु किञ्चित् अधिकतया सुलभं भवति, तदेव अस्ति। तो प्रथमं यत् कोऽपि whoever is doing the prarthana, they can do my anuvadam for the first 2 or 3 weeks. After that, I think they can do it on their own. Tadrisham karishyamah.
Yeah.
इदानीम् आरम्भं कुर्मः। अथ माहेश्वराणि सूत्राणि।
माहेश्वराणि सूत्राणि
सर्वे कुर्वन्तु, परन्तु मौनस्थितिं तु म्यूट् मध्ये भवन्तु, नो चेत् कोलाहलं भवति। रेकार्डिङ्ग् कृते किञ्चित् क्लेशः भवति। हरप्रसाद महोदय, भवान् म्यूट् मध्ये मास्तु, भवान् अनुवादं करोतु। अथ माहेश्वराणि सूत्राणि।
अथ माहेश्वराणि सूत्राणि।
अ इ उण् ऋलक् ए ओङ् ऐ औच् हयवरट् लण् एकनिमिषं, लण् कुत्र, ऐ एम् ट्रैङ्ग् टु लण् दृश्यते वा? लण् ञमङणनं
न्यमण्णननं
ञमङणनं
न्यमण्णनं
ञमङणनं
न्यमङणनं
झभञ्
झभन्य
घढधश्
घढधश्
जबगडदश्
जबगडदश्
ख फ छ ठ थ
ख फ छ ठ थ
चटतव
चटतौ
कपै
कपै
sar,
Shasha, sir,
hal,
hal,
iti maheshwarani sutrani.
iti maheshwarani sutrani.
उत्तमम् आम् तु अत्र it is difficult किमर्थम् इत्युक्ते अत्र माहेश्वरसूत्राणि तत्र एकां कथाम् अस्ति पाणिनि महोदय यदा आरम्भं कृतवान् यदा पठन् आसीत् गुरुकुले तत्समयं सर्वे उक्तवन्तः एषः तु मन्दं मन्दं पठति बहु सम्यक् रीत्या न पठति इति तत्समयं सः चिन्तितवान् अहं किमपि करोमि इति तदनन्तरं तपः कर्तुं गतवान् यदा तपः आरम्भं कृतवान् तत्समयं किं कृतवान् बहु सम्यक् रीत्या कृतवान् तु शिवः आगतवान् तत्र शिवः यदा आगतवान् तत्र ढमरुं वादितवान् यदा ढमरुं वादितवान् 14 वारं सः ढमरुं वादितवान् so every time he made a beat that time Panini heard not just the sound of the drum he heard these maheshwarani sutrani that is the katha over there because tasya tapashakti asit tadrisham so he was able to actually hear it like this etasya krite kim ityukte मात्रिका पाठः इति वयं सर्वे जानीमः अ आ इ ऋ ऋ लु इति वयं सर्वे जानीमः खलु तत्र अक्षराणि कथं भवति वर्गीय व्यञ्जनानि कथं भवति क ख ग घ ङ तत्सर्वं वयं जानीमः तु किमर्थं पुनः एतादृशम् आवश्यकम् इत्युक्ते अत्र यदा पाणिनि महोदय यदा सः सूत्रं रचितवान् सूत्राणि रचितवान् तत्सर्वं तत् कृते तस्य कृते केचन नियमाः सन्ति okay so when you're writing sutras when you're writing these sort of vyakarana sutras and other things as well all the sutras there are certain rules that have to be followed one is that you have to have as few mistakes as possible dosha sahita na bhutavyam dosha rahita bhavaniyam iti ekam tu asti tadanantaram ekam tu bahu one very important niyamam ekam asti as short as possible the sutra has to be as short as possible while still not creating confusion. That is the thing. So in order to create his sutras, we need these Maheshwara Sutranis in order to create the sutras. And why do we care about the sutras at this stage? Because in order to understand the sandhis, the sandhi rules, even the names of the sandhis, if we know these Maheshwara Sutranis and we understand these things called pratyaharas, which we'll go into next class, then understanding the sandhis will become easy. It is easy to remember how these sandhis can be used. It is not so much a memorization thing anymore. It becomes easy to formulate it in our heads. Tasya krite bahu avashyakam asti Maheshwara Sutranam kanthasti karanam. Okay, so I won't do the Utpanna Sthanani because I don't have it to share. I think it's easier if I have it as a share screen to do the Utpanna Sthanani also. We'll do that from next class. And I'll explain the reasoning behind it because this class I want to focus on the Purana Pratyas. No chet samayaha na bhavishyati. It will not be enough to finish the Purana Pratyantas. So I want us to do that today. So Maheshwara Sutrani, every time we'll do the Anuvadam and then we'll also start the Utpanna Sthananam Shloka from next time. Tadeva.
What is Anuvada?
Vadanam ityukte kim?
To speak.
So idanim Anuvadam ityukte you speak, you repeat. Anu ityukte you go again. So sometimes Anuvadam can also be used as to translate. Because what happens when you translate, what happens when you translate, you actually take what the person has said and you repeat it with an easier way so that people can understand it.
Okay.
So as we all know, in Sanskrit, context is all. So when I'm saying aham shlokam vadami bhavan anuvadatu, there I mean repeat. But if I give it as say subhashitam and say Angleya bhashayam anuvadatu, there the context is different. There I mean translate. Repeat it, but in English.
Okay.
Tadeva asti. So that root meaning, if we understand, no, what it means, that understanding of the action, it means that something is being repeated, but how it's repeated, what it's repeated, context based we can do. It makes more sense. That's all. Tadeva.
Bhagavati, can you recall?
Beautiful language in that way. You can take one thing and use it in so many different ways. It's very nice like that.
Yeah. Bhagavati, can you record this and send us?
So in the signal group, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. I'll do the Utpanasthanani also once over there, and then we'll start it from next class.
Yeah.
So Utpanasthanani ityukte kim tatra it starts like this. It goes akuha visarjaniyanam kantha. So it tells you which swaras and which vyanjanas go start where. So there are Utpanasthanani. One starts in the kantha. One starts in the murdhanya. We know this already. You would have had a base understanding of it. Murdhanya. Then you have what is danta. The takara and all, you danta, lata and all. So like that, this shloka gives it. Why do we care about it? Because when we do sandhi karyam, it was not a case of Panini wrote the sandhis and then the sandhi was used. No, it was a case of people used to speak Sanskrit so fast that the sandhi karyam would happen. So Panini, what he did, he formulated the rules based off of what was already there.
Okay.
And the rules came why? Because of the way we speak. It is a scientific, it comes from that shiksha, it comes from the phonetics. The way we speak, the sandhi happens automatically. That's what it was. So if we understand the where the sound comes from, if we understand what is alpa prana, mahaprana, all that sort of things, then that sandhi karyam also we can, even if we don't know, like when we're doing the shlokas, even if we don't know right now, we won't study hal sandhi. We won't study vyanjana sandhi when two vyanjanas meet. But it doesn't matter, because what happens is when you're reading the shlokas, if you can understand, oh, look, these two are actually, there's some mixing happening here. There was some sandhi karyam. You can actually logically understand what was there before. You can break up the word easier. So that is the reasoning behind doing this. That's all.
Okay.
Okay. Idanim agre gachamaha. Gata saptahe vayam परीक्षां न कृतवन्तः लघु परीक्षां यत् आसीत् क्विज़ इति सकर्मकः अकर्मकः धातूनां तु एतस्मिन् सप्ताहे तदेव इदानीम् आरम्भं कुर्मः प्रथमं तु केवलं किञ्चित् पुनरावलोकनं करिष्यामः तु सकर्मकः धातुः इत्युक्ते किं का वदति कोऽपि वदतु
कर्म इस् इन्वाल्व्ड
सकर्मकः इत्युक्ते कर्मणः सहित कर्म सहित धातुः अस्ति तत्र क्रियापदमस्ति धातुः तु कोऽपि धातुः अस्ति तत्र सर्वदा कर्म सहित एव भवति इति सकर्मक धातु परन्तु सर्वदा सकर्मकः भवति वा न कदा अकर्मकत्वं कदा प्रदर्शयितुं शक्यते when can it show akarmakatvam? If we have a sakarmaka dhatu, say we have what was the one that we can use?
Dhavati.
Dhavati, very good. So dhavati. Dhavati, when we think about it in our normal context, what do we think? We think running.
To run.
So balakah dhavati iti bhavati. Parantu balakah dhavati iti tatra balakah kim dhavati iti prashnah tatra kimapi उत्तरं भवति वा न भवति ततः तस्मिन् अर्थे तु अकर्मकत्वं प्रदर्शयति धावति परन्तु यदि अष्टाध्यायी.com मध्ये गत्वा वयं पश्यामः चेत् तत्र किम् अस्ति धाव इति धातु सकर्मकः तु तत्र किमर्थं सकर्मकः इति अस्ति
टु रन्
परन्तु सकर्मकः तु रन् इति नास्ति खलु तस्मिन् अर्थे नास्ति
टु वाश् अपि अस्ति
टु वाश् टु क्लीन् टु क्लेन्स् इति अस्ति खलु तत्र देयर इज अनदर मीनिंग ऑफ धाव टु वाश् टु क्लेन्स् तु प्रक्षालनार्थे तत्समयं वी हैव टु वाश् समथिंग तत्र किं धावनं करणीयं कस्य धावनं करणीयं किं धावति इति प्रश्नं प्रष्टुं शक्नुमः देयर इज अ मीनिंग देयर तु तत्र निरर्थकः नास्ति तत् प्रश्नः ततः तस्मिन् अर्थे धाव इति धातु सकर्मकत्वं प्रदर्शयति so if even one meaning is there where it can show sakarmakam then in ashtadhyayi.com or I don't know how it works in the original dhatu patah but I'm assuming it will be the same that it will be written as sakarmakam if it is can even have as one meaning what about the vah dhatu vahati iti vahati iti asti chet no chet tarati iti asti we had tarati in our homework
I got
tu tarati iti asti tatra what was the statement that was there in the homework.
Fish is swimming or something like that. Matsya tarati.
Samyak. Matsyaha taranti. Matsyaha nadyam taranti. Tatra kutra taranti nadyam taranti. Tatra matsyaha kim taranti iti vaktum shaknumah va?
No.
न वक्तुं शक्नुमः परन्तु कोऽपि पुरुषः अस्ति तस्य कार्यालयं तु अपरपक्षे अस्ति इट इज ऑन द अदर साइड ऑफ द रिवर सो सः नदीं तरति सः नदीं तरति ही क्रॉसेस द रिवर टू गेट टू हिज कार्यालयं तत्र सो तत्र पुरुषः किं तरति इति तस्य उत्तरमस्ति वा तादृशं नदी तरति तत्र कर्मयुक्त अस्ति कर्मम् अस्ति एव तो तस्मिन् अर्थे यदि तत्र when we are swimming इति अर्थे तत्र सकर्मकत्वं प्रदर्शयति परन्तु यदि I had said it wrong swimming इति अर्थे किम् अस्ति
no
अकर्मकं प्रदर्शयति यदि crossing इति अर्थे तत्र सकर्मकं so one thing in all the classes somebody should say context is all in Sanskrit. Without context we cannot make sense of anything because one word has a million meanings. Always we have to figure out the context and understand what is happening.
So Mahoday, is there any word for dhatus which are sakarmaka and akarmaka? No, there is no word.
No.
Okay.
तत्र उभयपदी इति परस्मैपदी तादृशम् अस्ति परन्तु सकर्मक अकर्मक I think it is more based on meaning.
Okay.
So अर्थं उपयुज्य एव वक्तुं शक्नुमः अत्र सकर्मकः अस्ति अत्र अकर्मकः अस्ति. But if we look at the main dhatu itself, they say even one sakarmaka meaning is there, then it is a sakarmaka dhatu. So there will be very rarely, it will be fewer dhatus which are only akarmaka. Most dhatus will be sakarmaka because at least in one meaning they will be sakarmaka.
So what is vikarmaka then?
So we did that last class. Somebody wants to explain what is dvikarmaka tatra?
Dvikarmaka is the dhatu can have two karma attached to it.
So first of all, it has to be sakarmaka. If it is not sakarmaka, it cannot have dvikarmaka.
Right.
It has to be able to take on a karma padam. Tatra karma padam avashyakam. Parantu viralah asti, parantu there are a few meanings. They go by 16 dhatus, but it's not just the dhatus, it's those meanings, dhatuarthe. In those 16 meanings, then we can say that it can take on two karma padas. So
one is primary, pratama and something.
So now we'll talk about that. So first of all, in dvikarmaka dhatus, we have karma dvayam asti. Tatra karma dvayam api dvitiya vibhaktyaam asti. Yada vayam kartari prayoge vadamaha. So the reason for going into this is because when we move to passive voice, we should have a solid foundation. So, but we are talking in kartari prayoga, in active voice right now. We are talking about two karma padams. Both of them are in dvitiya vibhakti, but they have no relationship with each other. Paraspara anvayaha nasti. Tatra visheshya visheshana bhavaha na pradarshayati. Khalu? Tatra nasti. Tatra prashnam pritchati, chatram pritchati. Dvayamapi anvayaha kutra kriyaya saha asti. Both of them are related to the verb. They are not related to each other. Acharyaha asti, acharyaha pritchati, acharyaha kim pritchati, acharyaha prashnam pritchati. Punah acharyaha kim pritchati, acharyaha chatram pritchati. Kidrishaha prashnaha nasti tatra. Kidrishaha prashnam, chatram prashnam iti na bhavati. You have to ask to the kriya padam. So that is why it is dvikarmaka. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because we have yadi balika asti, balika gayati, balika geetam gayati, balika kim gayati, geetam gayati. Kidrisham geetam, sundaram geetam. We can do that. But over there, is it dvikarmaka? No. Because what is being said? There it is visheshya visheshana bhava. So you have to be careful. Is it just because there are two things? When we did visheshya visheshana bhava, we gave you a simple way to see whether or not it is visheshya visheshana bhava. How? We said if it is in the same vibhakti, it is most probably going to be like that. But in Sanskrit, what happens? There will most probably be an apavadam because we have to go into context. So here we're going deeper now. So it is not.
Mahoday, in your first example, you were saying Kim Prichadi. So will it be Kim or Kam when we have to answer as Chatram?
No, that it is come. But that also no? If you don't know what the answer is going to be here, because we know the question, we know the statement, we can say Kam Prichati. But if you don't know what the answer is going to be, then you can always use Kim.
Kim. Okay.
You can always use it. So using Kim is not wrong, but when we're doing Kanda Kramaha, because we have the statement in front of us, we should use the correct Vibhakti Vachanam Linga. That's all. Okay.
Mahoday.
But in this case, it will always be Kim, right? Because it's Ditya, no?
No, because we can go Chatram Prichati Chet, Kam Prichati. It is Pullingam Asti.
Okay, sorry.
No, sorry, Chinta Nasti. Vadatu.
Mahoday, Balika Pustakam Lekanim Krinate.
Samyak. Tatra, that doesn't mean that Krinati is a Dvikarmaka dhatu. There, what have you done? Ekam padam adhyahritam asti. You have left out one avyayam. What have you left out? Cha. You have left out cha. Tatra samuha asti. There is a group. So sa kim krinati, sa lekhanim krinati. Sa anyat kim krinati, sa pustakam krinati. Tatra cha asti. That cha is actually making it a group. It is making it a bracket. So both of them become one equivalent to one karma padam. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing here, Mahoday. Balika Syutam Lekanim Nayati. So Tatra Nayati Dvikarmaka.
Nayati Dvikarmaka samyak. Parantu etasmin vakye Nayati Dvikarmakam upayujya tadri. Is it using the Dvikarmaka rupam?
Syutam Lekanim.
Cha.
When we do Nayati, what was the example that we can give? We can say Mata Putram Griham Nayati. Why is it Dvikarmaka? Because we decided when there are two karma padams, we can see one is a pradhana, mukhya karma padam, the other one is a gauna karma padam.
Karma padam.
How do we decide which one is the gauna karma padam? Do this time, do translation. Tell me in English, tell me what that statement is. Mata Putram Griham Nayati.
So a mother takes the son to Griham, house.
Mother takes the son to the house. Now tell me, translate. Mata Lekhanim Syutam Nayati. Translate for me. Translate.
So she's carrying both of them.
Bracket.
Okay.
So it is equivalent to one karma padam there. So you have to look at what is the meaning. Context is everything. Without context, without understanding, this language is useless for us.
So there the cha is implied.
Yes, exactly.
But I think Bhagya Mahoday's question is very valid. We could get confused.
Yes. If we
No,
go
Mahoday, I got confused.
approach.
No. When you're saying it, yes, it's very confusing. We might think that, oh yeah, these two, and no relation actually between the two. So we might end up saying it's a Dvikarmaka.
Correct. But it is only Dvikarmaka if we can identify a Pradhana karma and a Gauna karma. How do we understand it's a Gauna karma? Because when we translate, it becomes to the house. Correct? She carries her son to the house. So what happens? Apara vibhakti ka tatra.
Saptami, is it to the house?
So she can say, not grihaya, grihe. Grihe nayati. Kimartham? We want to say if she carries to the house, we want to say chaturthi. Because we want to say it is recipient.
Giving. Right.
But it is not using chaturthi. Why? Because, even I don't know. Vyakarane kimapi niyamaha asti.
No, in this case, it's locative. No, in this case, it's locative.
It is adhikarana. Exactly. So, but when we say it, when we translate it, we want to say to the house. But see, we want to be able to differentiate between mother carries the son to the house versus mother carries the son in the house. In the house, we want to say grihe nayati. To the house, we want to say grihaya nayati. But no, in Sanskrit, both are grihe nayati.
Oh.
Because nayati is a dvikarmaka padam, which can be used mata putram griham nayati. Hence, following that, there is one more niyamam where we cannot change the gauna karma into any vibhakti except the one that is grammatically correct, which is saptami for nayati. Now, if we don't know, don't change it. But when we translate to English or to translate to asmakam bharatiya bhashayam yadi anuvadam kurmaha, tatra we can see one is stated slightly differently, the other one is stated slightly differently. But if both are, in the case of the Syutam and the Lekhanim, the mother carries the book and the pen and the bag. They're both said the same way, equal weight, like that. So then it is different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Mahoday, now I need to rewrite all my Dvikarmaka homework. I made wrong.
It shouldn't be all of it, no? Some only
No,
some.
at least 4 or 5. I didn't. I just wrote it like this. Now it's making sense.
Okay.
Dhanyavada Mahoday.
No, chinta nasti. That's what we have. You can't expect, one class you do and then the whole thing makes sense. There is a. If you look at Prayoga Vistaraha, the book in Prayoga Vistaraha for Dvikarmaka, there is a full chapter, and when I'm reading it, half of it doesn't make sense to me. And there is another if you look in the Karaka book, there is another. In the end, there's a full chapter on Dvikarmaka. Again, half of it doesn't make sense to me, even now. So there is so much in it. It is brilliant. When you go into it, no, you can go in and in and in and in. You won't come out. You don't know where it is, the ending, right? But we'll try as much as possible. How much we can understand, we'll try. That's our goal. And as we go further and further, you will bring more questions and we'll dig deeper and we'll do whatever we can, we'll do. That's the idea behind it.
Mahoday, another question. When you say Balika Syutam Vidyalayam Gachati.
Gachati, gam dhatu, vikarmaka dhatu asti va.
No, but Sweetam Vidyalayam.
Syutam Vidyalayam. She's taking,
Nayati,
right?
Nayati iti vaktum shaknumaha. Gachati iti na vaktum shaknumaha.
Gachati.
So, Balika, Syutam shalam nayati. Tadeva?
Vidyalayam.
Vidyalayam nayati. Vidyalayam nayati. To, Balika, Syutam Vidyalayam nayati. Tatra, kim padam sarvada karma padam bhavati. What is the object always in that statement? Syutam.
Yeah.
Is carrying.
Syutam.
Kim nayati tu syutam eva. Tu syutam tatra mukhya pradhana karma padam. Tatra. Sarvada dvitiya vibhaktyam eva bhavitum arhati eva. And we cannot use a different vibhakti there. Parantu sa syutam vidyalayam nayati. Vidyalayam nayati. Yadi Tamil bhashayam, nachet Angleya bhashayam, yadi anuvadam kurmah, tatra katham bhavati?
To the school.
To the school. So, shala vidyalaye nayati iti api vaktum shaknumaha. So even if we say it wrong, even if we didn't know the Vyakaranam rules, we'll at least want to say Vidyalayaya nayati, at least. So we can see there is a different vibhakti. You might not know exactly which vibhakti, but we can see definitely there is a different vibhakti. Hence, that is the Gauna Karma.
Oh dear. Svetam Sutam Layati. Does it have the same Karmapatam?
Idanim chintayatu. Tatra Shvetam Syutam Nayati. Tatra Shvetam, when you want to ask a question to find out the answer is Shvetam, what will you put the question to? Will you say
Syutam?
You will have to ask the Syutam, what is your color? What are you? Only then you will get the answer as Shvetam, no? Right. If you ask Nayati, Kim Nayati, the only answer you can get is the bag, Syutam eva. Tatra Shvetam iti na bhavati.
Okay.
But if you
that
ask
will be Vishesha Visheshana.
That is Vishesha Visheshana bhava.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So when you have two things in Dvitiya Vibhakti, now we have one. Thank you, Bhagya Mahoday. I didn't even consider that option. So we have a few different things that can happen. We have to be careful. When we look at it, can we put this one word which is always in Dvitiya, can we put the other word into some sort of different vibhakti? Is that allowed? If it is allowed, then it is a Dvikarmaka dhatu, where it is using that Dvikarmakam there. Okay. But if we have two words in Dvitiya vibhakti, where one is describing the other word, then we know it is Visheshya Visheshana Bhava. It is not showing Dvikarmakatvam there. If we have two words in the same vibhakti, but it is becoming a part of a group, then also it is not Dvikarmaka dhatu there. It is not showing the Dvikarmakatvam there. It might be a Dvikarmaka dhatu, but it is not showing it. So we can say Balika Syutam Lekhanim Vidyalayam Nayati. There we've left out the cha. That's okay. But we know there are actually only two objects. One is what is she carrying to school? The other is she's taking to the school. So those are the two main karma padams there. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. Tatra, do we have any other questions about differences between sakarmaka, akarmaka, and dvikarmaka? And no, this is a lifelong process. When we come to karmani prayoga, it will get even more confusing, but it will be very nice when we do it. I love it.
Mohade, Mata Putram Katam Vadati. So you also Vikalpa Rupam, you also said Putraya.
Therefore,
So
there the niyamam is for Vadati, for Kathayati, for Bodhayati. What is the reason? Who is she giving it to? Tatra Sampradhanam. You're giving that katham is being received by someone. You're that if Guruhu Chatram Dharmam Bodhayati. That dharmam is being given to the chatra. So Chatraya Dharmam Bodhayati. Iti vaktum shaknumaha.
So here Gauna and Pradhana, which one here then? Putram Vadati.
You tell me.
Katam Vadati, Kim Vadati, right? Katam
Kam.
Vadati.
Kam
Katam
Vadati.
Vadati, Kim Vadati, Katam Vadati. And Kasmai Vadati, that's Putraya Vadati.
When you're doing Anvera, good question actually, that's another good question. So let's take that statement. So what was it? Mata Putram Mata Putram Katham Vadati. So Mata Putram Katham Vadati. Mula Vakyam, always take the first Mula Vakyam. Mula Vakyam is what? Mata Vadati. So let's go with Vadati and we'll do our Anvayakrama. Vadati. Ka Vadati, Mata Vadati. Now, what is the main thing? When Vadati, what is being spoken? What is being spoken? Tatra Pradhanam Kim?
Katam.
Katham. So, Kam Vadati. Kam Vadati, Katham Vadati. Tatra Anyaritya na vaktum shaknumaha. We cannot use a different vibhakti form at all. It has to be in Dvitiya vibhakti. We cannot say Kathayaha Vadati, something like that we cannot say. So, Katham Vadati. Kam Vadati, Katham Vadati. Tadanantaram, because Putram is in Dvitiya vibhakti, we have to say Punaha Kam Vadati. Punaha Kam Vadati. Putram Vadati. Does that make sense? Both are in Dvitiya. So we have to put the question in Dvitiya. But when we were doing Visheshya Visheshana Bhavaha, we used to ask the question to the Visheshyam and say Kidrisham. Now, because the Anvaya, because the relationship is with the verb, we will say Punaha Kam Vadati. You'll use the verb Punaha Kam Vadati. Then you'll say Putram Vadati. Now, if you have used the different vibhakti, then you can say Kasmai Vadati and you can say Putraya. But if the statement is using Dvitiya vibhakti, your question should also use Dvitiya vibhakti.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, Mahade.
So in this example, it is Dvikarma, Dvikarmaka.
So you'll have two Dvitiya vibhakti prashnas there. Tatra prashnadvayam api Dvitiya vibhaktyam eva bhavati. So, but you have to be careful. When you're using Visheshya Visheshana Bhava, you will put the question for the Visheshanam to the Visheshyam. When you're doing Dvikarmaka dhatus, you will put the question to the verb, Kriya Padam. You will not ask the Visheshyam. You will not ask the other noun because there is no Paraspara Anvayaha there. There is no relationship between the two Karma Padams. Is it clear or have I confused everybody?
No, it's clear.
It's clear? Okay.
More practice.
Clear, Mahoday. I think.
No, we'll do more. Don't worry. There is if we're very clear about this now, when we go to that karmani, which gets a little confusing, we will not be as confused. It will become easier for us. That is the main reasoning behind understanding it right now. That's all. Plus, it's good also, no? When we make sentences and all that, we won't make mistakes as easily. When we understand that bhudhatu, okay, it is actually definitely has to be always akarmakaha. That means, how can I say that use a karma padam over there? There are lots of cases where suddenly some people will start saying asti with a karma padam, but it is wrong. So we can fix it when we can see these things over there. Okay. So that is the main thing. So sakarmakam versus akarmakam. You have to look at the sentence. You have to look at the meaning of the sentence. What is happening in that sentence? Are you using a karma padam or are you using a different one? I talked in the quiz, there's going to be something called rajate. At rajate ityukte, it means to reign. There were two different words. One is rajate, one is shasti. Shasti ityukte to rule. Rajate ityukte to reign. So tatra dasharatha asti. Raja dasharatha asti. To saha kim karoti? Saha ayodhyayam shasti. Saha ayodhyayam shasti. He rules in Ayodhya. Or did I say that? No, this is a Dvikarmaka dhatu. See, very easy to confuse. So what is Shasti? Shasti is Dvikarmaka. So saha kam Shasti. Saha Ayodhyam Shasti. Because it is Dvikarmaka. So I fixed it now. Sorry, because I realized it is a Dvikarmaka dhatu. The minute you know it is a Dvikarmaka dhatu, it has to have a karma padam. And what is the karma padam for Shasti? When you're ruling somebody, when you're ruling something, what is it? You're putting, ordering, making order, you're making sure that they follow a certain specific sort of way of life, etc. So Shasti tatra tadrisham asti. So the Raja Mahodaya, Raja Dasharatha, saha kim karoti? Saha Ayodhyam Shasti. He basically rules the people of Ayodhya. So Ayodhyam Shasti. Saha Ayodhyam Agnya Palanam Shasti. He rules Ayodhya following the rules. Agya Palanam. He takes care of the rules. Tadrisham asti. Parantu Rajate ityukte kim? Tatra Bhushanam iti. Bhushayati iti arthya asti. Okay. So Rajate means to reign. To reign, he reigns in Ayodhya. So in Tamil, I don't know how we will say it. What is the other languages that you speak? Bhagya Mahoday, Hariprasad Mahoday, Tina Mahoday? Kannada. So if you want to say the same thing, he reigns in Ayodhya. How would you say it in Kannada, Mahoday? Dasharatha?
Ayodhya Yelli. Ayodhya Nalli.
Ayodhya Nalli. Versus, do you have in something else where he rules Ayodhya, where it is the object in Kannada that you can say that?
Yeah, like Dasharatha Ayodhyayano Aluttane, like that. Okay. He's ruling.
He's ruling. So do you also have the two different ways to say it? One.
Yes.
Okay. So Tadeva.
It's like karma pada and then also in karma, like it's like saptami, locative. We have it.
So same thing in Sanskritam also. So if in Tamil also it is there. Anga versus he's doing it to that place. So Dasharatha, so I'll make the two sentences. Dasharatha Ayodhyam Shasti, because Shasti is a Dvikarmaka dhatu. We learnt it in that rule, in that karika. Shas is part of that karika, it is a Dvikarmaka dhatu. Versus Rajate means Bhushayati. He is the jewel of Ayodhya. He glorifies Ayodhya with his presence. So tatra Dasharatha Ayodhyayam Rajate iti bhavati. Which you can see when I go into the quiz, you can see it in the statement, the way it is put in the statement. It will be a little confusing. Try it. So I'm going to put the quiz in the chat. Please click on the link and try it. Do you see the link?
Yeah.
What's the code?
The code, one second, sorry, is 421870. 421870.
But it directly went in without the code.
This if you click on the link, it has the code.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so I mean.
Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and is that, I think that's how many we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we have 2 more people, no? So Haraprasad Mahodaya is there. Vijay Sundaram, PP. I'm assuming that's Priya Mahodaya. Preeti Shantaram, Rajashri, Hemrani, Vijay Mahodaya. Who are we missing? Rajashri Mahodaya is there.
7 are there now.
7 are there. So it's all of us. 1, 2, 3, 4. We should have one more, no? Who am I missing?
No, maybe you're counting yourself, or?
Am I? I thought without me it's...
No, there are 8 participants.
There are 8 participants.
Who is missing there?
So who is missing? Haraprasad Mahodaya is there. Rajashri Mahodaya is there.
Bhagya Mahodaya. Bhagya Mahodaya.
Bhagya Mahodaya. Now. Okay, good. Okay, I'll start now. Oh, let me take that. I'll just mute everybody. No. 11 to 12:30 is class, and then it's meeting. 11:45. They're doing a quiz. Oh, I'm not on mute. Shamitam. आम् उत्तमं बहु सम्यक् रीत्या कृतवन्तः सर्वे एकवारम् अहं केवलं वदामि किं किम् अस्ति इति बट I think everyone did very well not bad I on purpose made it a little bit confusing just FYI so okay अत्र अस्ति सा वीणां वादयति तत्र सकर्मकः एव we can see वीणाम् इति अस्ति तत्र सकर्मकः रामः अस्ति भूधातु तत्र अकर्मकः there is no other way it can be done bhudhatu as dhatu has to be akarmaka always aham mitreena milami we make a mistake there we want to say aham mitram milami iti it is not correct okay mitram is wrong you should always use tritiya mitreena milami iti asti tatra so tatra akarmakah eva asti akarmakam anantaram sa vatikayam vriksham arohati tatra वाटिकायाम इति सप्तमी परंतु वृक्षम इति अस्ति वृक्षम द्वितीय सो तत्र सकर्मक किमर्थम् इत्युक्ते आ इति अस्ति यदि आ इति न आसीत् तत्र रुह् धातु तु अकर्मकम् एव अनन्तरं विद्या if I am going too fast if anybody has any questions in the middle please don't hesitate to ask यदा अहं वदामि चिन्ता नास्ति विद्या ज्ञानाय kalpate is equivalent to bhavati bhudhatu so it is also akarmakam okay vidya jnanaya kalpate tatra akarmakah eva adhyapakah pritchati atra etasmin vakye karmapadam nasti parantu yadi kim pritchati iti pritchamah tatra uttaram bhavati eva so tatra sakarmakah
but Mahodaya, you said everything is context. So in this context, it should be akarmakah.
Okay, tell me this. The teacher is asking.
The teacher
asks. Is it impossible to answer it if there is something the teacher is asking? The teacher asks. He has to ask something.
No, I agree. But what I'm saying is then in the other cases where it is akarmakaha, I can always say it is possible to ask a sakarmakaha question there.
Which one? Tell me which one. With which one? Mil. Can you make it sakarmaka? In any context?
No, where there are those vikarmakaha dhatus, no?
Correct. In that meaning you have to ask.
Yeah.
So vahati in terms of flowing. Can you ever... So, Nadi Vahati, can you ever ask a question where there is any possible answer for using Dvitiya, using a karma padam?
Mahodaya, I understand what Rajashri Mahodaya is saying.
No, I also understand.
The same thing actually. I was like, what is this question? Does it mean in this vakyam, is there a karma padam? Or I thought, oh, in the vakyam, okay, there's no karma padam. So I put I understand. I think that's what you're asking, right? You put it probably as akarmaka because in that vakyam it's not there.
Yes, that's what.
But what?
Yeah, right.
But I remember Mahodaya mentioning in the last class that even if you ask a question, even if the there is no answer in the sentence also, but if the question always can have an answer for kim pratyaya then it will be a sakar. I think you mentioned that in last class, right?
You can never ask without asking a question, right? Yeah. You can flow. You can always flow without a karma padam. There you have to look at the meaning. That's what I mean by context, not by in that sentence. You're looking at the meaning. So in this meaning, what is it? Asking. Asking has to you have to ask a question. There's no other way you can ask. Correct. You have to ask a question. But in the meaning of flow, in Bahati, you're looking at there are two meanings. One is carrying, one is flowing. When you're talking about the river flowing, there when you ask the question, what is it flowing? You will never get an answer. So hence, in the meaning of flowing, Vahdatu is akarmaka. But in the meaning of, if I say, suppose there is a katha, there is some prasanga there, tatra bharavahakah asti. तत्र भारवाहकः अस्ति भारवाहकः तत्र रेल्यानं प्रति गच्छति तत्र कोऽपि अस्ति तत्र कोऽपि तत्र वदति तत्र वहतु इति सः वदति, केवलं वहतु इति वदति। तत्र तस्मिन् अर्थे तस्मिन् प्रसंगे अकर्मकत्वम् अस्ति वा सकर्मकत्वम् अस्ति वा वदतु?
सकर्मकत्वम्।
किमर्थम् इत्युक्ते you understand that it is in the meaning of carry. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but still I don't know. When you say context, this particular question, I don't still, I'm not very convinced.
Okay.
Anyway, it's okay.
No, anyway, it's okay and all. No, that's not okay.
Mahoday, so in this particular context, you're saying there cannot be a sentence without a karma in this.
No, there can be a sentence without a karma. Like I can say vahatu, I can say prichatu. When I say prichatu, say Vijay Mahodaya, Bhavan kimapi, you're trying to say something. So aham vadami, prichatu Mahodaya. When I say prichatu, over there I'm saying you ask a question, right? I am not saying
implied,
just
implied. Okay, the karma is implied there.
The karma is implied there. You can never ask. You can never.
The teacher asks a question.
The
teacher asks a question. So
there. So the teacher asks a question. How can he ask without asking a question? Or without asking for something? When you're asking, the implication is there that something is necessary, right?
Okay, then I'll have to go through all the other sentences again in this slide. I've been looking at it from the sentence, that context, as you said. So
context is not context as in what is written only in this sentence. You always have to look at what is the context meaning, what is the sandarbham, what is the prasangam, what is the meaning, underlying meaning there, which is hard to do with one sentence. But with prichati, it is not hard, because no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, when you're asking, you have to ask something. There will always be a karma padam. Tattu nitya sakarmaka dhatu eva asti. Does that make sense or no?
Okay, no, I'll go through the others and then I will get back if there is.
Yes, ask me. Don't leave it, okay? Because while we are studying, if you ask and you're clear with it, then it'll be solid when you're going ahead. So don't leave it. And I won't get annoyed. You can ask how much ever you want, and I will also dig as deep as needed. Don't worry, okay? You can fight with me also, no problem. Yuyam nrityata. We discussed this also. Yuyam nrityata. Tatra akarmakaha eva. Kevalam yadi vayam vadamaha yuyam bharatanatyam nrityata iti vadamaha tatra laukika bhashayam sakarmakatvam pradarshayati. Parantu bharatanatyam tasmin pade eva natanam iti asti tatra. Bharatanatyam iti asti chet, that implies already dancing. So actually when you are speaking, if you want to speak vyakaranya ritya sadhu vakyam avashakam chet, you should say yuyam Bharatanatyam kuruta. Do. Because that Bharatanatyam already implies dance. So saying that dance Bharatanatyam is redundant. So nrityata is actually an akarmaka dhatu. So that is the confusion that arises with nrit dhatu and creed dhatu. So football creedatu iti na. Football karotu. Okay. That is the confusion there. Does that make sense? Rajashri Mahoday, does this make sense?
Yes, then we can, I don't know, I'm just thinking. You can say, Yuyam Odisi Nrityam Kuruta.
Exactly.
But there you use the word Nrityam. We don't just say Odisi, because that in Bharatanatyam, Natyam is part of the word.
But Odissi is what? Odissi itself is a dance.
Yes, I get it. But then we can say that, right? The same.
If we want to be spashtataya vaktum avashakam chet tatra Odissi natyam nrityata kuruta iti vaktum shaknumaha. Yes, definitely. If we are on a regular basis, like we're talking to somebody on the phone or on the street and something, and if we say Odissi nrityata, that is not wrong, because it has been in use for quite a long time. Hence, it is okay.
So in this case, it will be sakarmaka only.
In this case here, yuyam nrityata, it is akarmaka.
In nrityata, it is akarmaka.
But if we say Odissi, yes, then it is sakarmaka. But that is
as a gruhakaryam, chitram društva, likatu. So natarajasya chitram asti. So natarajaha nrutyati or Nataraja Tandava Nrutyam Karoti. Which one is right?
So do you have to, what is the question asking? Is it asking that you have to write the statement, or you have to decide the dhatu, whether it's sakarmaka or akarmaka? What is it?
I thought it's sakarmaka. So, but I put a big question mark there. Nataraja Tandavam Nrutyati. So I put bracket for Tandavam.
So there, so you just make it clear, okay? Because of this problem with Nrityati, just make it clear. So you say Natarajaha Tandavam Nrityati Atra Laukika Bhasha Yada Vayam Laukika Bhasham Upayogam Kurmaha Laukika Bhashayaha Upayogam Kurmaha Tatra Sakarmakaha Asti Parantu Nrit Dhatu in Ashtadhyayi is Akarmaka.
Karmaka.
Because
right.
actually we should say, I know it is long to write, but if you want to write it. If they say it's wrong, you know what we're talking about. Those marks don't matter, okay? Make sure you understand what's happening. So, Tandava Nrityam Karoti is correct.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Oh, Madhya. Dhanyavad.
Okay. Sometimes what happens when we're doing when the marking happens, sometimes I've made a mistake when I've marked the paper. I'm sorry. I also get confused sometimes. Hence, the graders have also been confused and have passed on the confusion. When something like that happens, please make sure to ask for clarification in class. And if something comes up in the chat messages or something, and even if I forget, Preeti Mahodaya, please remind me to explain it in class again. So most of the time, hopefully it is correct because there are quite a few people looking at the same thing. But sometimes human error happens. If something like that happens, make sure to discuss it. Make sure to make sense of it. Tadeva Mukyam. So does this make sense with the Nrit Dhatu? Shall we move on? Okay. Eshaha mam syutam anitavan. Tatra karmadvayam asti. To tatra sakarmakaha eva. Even though the upasarga is there, it has not changed the meaning. It is anitavan. He's carried it, except he's carrying it to me. Anitavan iti. So tatra sakarmakaha eva. Dvikarmakaha to, even if it is dvikarmaka, it has to be sakarmaka first. Only then it can be dvikarmaka. It has a karma pada, at least one. Nripaha ayodhyayam rajate. Okay, ayodhyayam rajate. Tatra saha tatra bhushayati. Saha ayodhya. He is glorifying Ayodhya. Did I make a mistake in explaining? He is the glory of Ayodhya. He beautifies. He is the beauty in Ayodhya. Tadrisham asti. So it is actually akarmaka. When does everyone understand that meaning over there? Rajate.
Mahodaya.
Yes. Shall we move on because
could you repeat it, Mahodaya?
So Shasti versus Rajate. Remember, Shasti is rule. There it is Dvikarmaka. So Nripaha Ayodhyam Shasti. But Rajate is to reign. He reigns in Ayodhya. Nripaha Ayodhyayam Rajate. He reigns in. That the meaning is slightly different. To rule versus to reign is slightly different.
Yeah.
Rajate also means to glow. So he glows. If you look at the meaning of glowing in terms of, he's beautifying. He's glowing in Ayodhya. Tadrisham asti. Does that make sense?
Dhanyavada.
Vidurau mahantau bhavataha. Vidurau mahantau bhavataha. Tatra bhudatu asti. Bhudatu to akarmakaha. Parantu prashnah kim asti tatra. Prashnah kaha. Etasmin vakya mahan iti dhatuhu. Mahan iti dhatuhu asti va? Mahan iti.
No.
Even I didn't read the question. I put
I missed it too, Mahodaya.
I expected that. The reason for this was I was actually teaching my daughter, and we were doing a bunch of maths questions. And the question was, so something and all happened. She's calculated a whole bunch of things. But the question is something about completely simple, whatever is there in the question statement itself. So she missed it. I was like, this is
only focused on now sakarmaka and akarmaka. We will not put any other answer.
So be careful when I make the quiz, okay?
The average time taken 4 seconds. No thinking.
So be careful when it even in the where whatever you're doing, just make sure you read the question. Tadeva asti. Okay. All right. So idanim vayam we've done the quiz. Sakarmakah, akarmakah, dvikarmakah. Atra etasmin vishaye kimapi prashnah asti va? Agre yada vayam gacchamaha. As you read sentences, it's not there in the Parichaya book. It is not there in the Pravesha book. But as you're reading a katha, as you're reading our homework, please consider, keep it in mind, look at the dhatu, look at whether it is, even for checking whether the teacher has written the statement correctly. Please look at it. Make sure it sounds correct. If it is wrong, please point it out. Start a discussion. Okay? Keep that this thing should be in your head at all times when you're reading or checking sentences. Tadeva asti. Okay, so we'll do this sandhi next, but later. But now we'll start with Purana Pratyantaha. So Purana Pratyantaha we already have discussed. We started talking about Purana Pratyantaha. Let me first ask what you remember about it. So Purana Pratyantaha ityukte kim? Yadi kopi samuhaha asti. There is a group. Jana samuhaha asti. Janas bahavaha janaha santi. Tatra yadi aham pritchami. Kati janaha santi. Tatra Uttaram yada vayam vadamaha. Kim upayujya vadamaha. What sort of words will we use? Kati iti uttare. Sankhya-vachaka shabdam upayujya eva vadamaha. Uttaram. Khalu. Kati janaha ityukte pancha janaha, shad janaha, dasha janaha, tadrisham eva. Parantu yadi avali asti, list asti, kimapi kramaha asti. We know there is an order. When there is an order, kramaha asti chet, we have to use, what do we have to use? Tatra?
Ordinal?
Ordinal. First, second, third, tadrisham. So tatra, Sanskritena katham vadamaha. What is it called? Anybody remember? Purana pratyayantaha iti. Other one we can say is kramavachaka shabdaha. In Parichaya, they will only call it Purana Pratyantaha, but it means Kramavachaka Shabdaha. It tells you an order. No chet Purani Sankhya api Vaktum Shaknamaha Tatra. Different ways of saying the same thing. So, Tatra, basically, if there is an order and we have to ask in that group of people, based on, there is a line and I want to know who the fifth person is, I have to ask Tatra, Panchamaha Balakaha Kaha iti Vaktum Vadaniyam Tatra. Correct? I cannot say pancha balakaha kaha because pancha is nitya bahu. It is defining a bahuvachanam. It is saying 5 boys. I have to say pancha balakaha always. Correct? It cannot be pancha balakaha. So if we see balakaha and then we see a 5 over there, it has to be panchamaha balakaha. It has to be the 5th boy. It is singular. It is one boy in the whole line. Now, if I want to ask that question, who remembers the question word Prashnavachaka Shabdaha kaha tatra? It is not Kati anymore. So what is it now? Katamas. Katamas. Very, very rarely used. You will almost never see it. Very rarely used because we are doing Purana Pratyantas and we found this, we have added it in. But if you see it, Katamas is there to understand among a group, who is it? Which is it among the group? Does that make sense? So, Katamasa Margena. It is a Vishesha.
Why do you say it is a very rarely used? Like that's a very common usage, right? To know which is the fifth position.
You're right, but they don't ask like that. They'll say Tatra Kaha Asti ityeva. You can use it using just Kaha Shabdaha. You can ask using just the Kaha Shabdaha. You don't need to ask which among the many because the context itself points out that you're asking which among the many.
So how will the other form of usage be?
Tatra balakaha santi. Pankti asti. Line. There is a line. Balakaha santi. Line te pankti he te they're standing. Te tatra. So I can ask tatra panchamaha balakaha kaha. I can ask. No chet Govindaha tatra pankti asti. So I can say Govindah kaha. I don't have to say ki.
Oh,
That
okay.
katamasak. I don't have to use that word at all. It is very easy to just use the kaha shabda. And you will, I'm not putting it in homework, etc. because I cannot even find the declination of the katamas properly. I just found
never heard of this katamas.
Yes, it is there in Chitrapur Matta. That's where I saw.
Oh, I never heard of that.
It is there in Chitrapur Matta, and it is there in one other Vyakaranam book, but I cannot find the declination anywhere. So I've only put it there just in case you see it somewhere, you know that there is some word like this. It can be used. That's all. Okay.
Bhasha Pravesha too just mentions it, Mahodaya.
Yeah.
Does it? Okay, thank you. I will look it
Yeah,
up.
but
Yeah.
it Bhasha Pravesha too.
Okay, I'll look it up. Thank you. Because I couldn't find it anywhere. I found it in Chitrapur Math. Then I got confused because Akila Mahodaya had asked me, is this correct or not? And then I tried to Google the declination. I couldn't find it anywhere. And then I asked my friend. She found some funny book where it was there. And it led to a lot of discussion. Nice discussion. So
what is the prathama for the? How do you say the question, Mahodaya?
I have found
Katamas.
I found two different words. I found both katamaha and katamas. Both I have seen used for prathama vibhakti for pullingam. I know for napumsakalingam it is katamam, and I know for strilingam it is katama. But I don't know, of all things, I don't know prathama ekavachanam of the katamas pullinga. So when I find it, if I find it, when I find it, I will 100% let you guys know.
Okay.
Yes. So Chintamastu. These are the examples I found, and I didn't want to make a mistake, so I took it directly and I put it in here. It is only there for your parichayam. So you are not going to use it. I am not going to use it much in terms of usage, but if you see it, it is there. Okay. Tadeva asti. Okay. So I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about this yet. I want to explain something else. We'll come back to this. These slides, if you see slide 5, 6, 7, and 8 are there for a summary purpose, where when you are doing your homework or you are doing other things and you want to look up something, all of the rules for the Purana Pratyantas are all there in a summary form. Sankshepa Rupena Atra Asti. But if we start here, we'll get confused. So we won't start here, we'll end here. Okay. Atra. Okay. So as we've been talking, even since Pravesha, since Sambhashana Varga, even Asmakam Bharatiya Bhashayam api, Vayam etadrisham Purana Pratyantan eva upayujya uktva eva agatavantaha. Aham ekadashi iti janimaha. Ekadashi dinakaha ekadashi iti navatkuncha. Ekadashi tithi iti vayam janimaha. Tithihi. Ekadashi tithihi iti janimaha. Anantaram tatra prathamam etadrisham karyam karaniyam. Prathamam karyam iti janimaha. Or we might have said prathama karyam. We might have used a samasta padam. We've made it prathama karyam. Okay, but we've used it. We've used prathamam. We've used, I think even dvitiyam is common use. We've used navami, Rama Navami iti vayam janimaha. So Purana Pratyanta.
Prathama vibhakti, dvitiya
vibhakti. Exactly. Vibhakti tatra Srilinge asti tataha prathama vibhakti, dvitiya vibhakti, tritiya vibhakti. Dhanyavadaha. Tat sarvam asti. Vayam janimaha eva. We've been using it without knowing the that it is called.
Yeah, like Durgashtami, Navami, all those things we use it, but we
have never actually figured out what that Ashtami and all it. We know it is the eighth day, but I think consciously never realized that it was cardinal versus ordinal tadrisha. That's all. So atra tadeva asti. So there, when we talked about Purna Pratyantas, the main thing is one, it uses the Sankhya Vachaka Shabdaha as the root, as the Pratipadikam. Tatra Kevalam, if you look at Prathama, Dvitiya, Tritiya, it is slightly different. But if you look at the others, Chatur, Pancha, Shash, Sapta, you can see the root, you can see the Pratipadikam within the word. Correct? The first three are slightly different. They are conjugated slightly differently. But the root word is there. After all the Prakriya is done using the Vyakaranam, somehow they've come to this form. Don't ask me how, I don't know. But it is still using the Sankhya Vachaka Shabda. It is using Eka somehow to come to Prathama. I don't know how. All of these others.
So Mahodaya, so what are you, I'm not following you. So what is Ashtami, Navami, Dashami. So what are you talking about?
So when we say Ashtami, correct? We know it means the 8th day. Ashtami
8th
Tithi.
day.
Ashtami Tithi. Iti Janimaha. That's where it came from. We might not even have realized it is Tithi. We all know that is Navami, Ashtami, etc. We've been, from childhood, we've been brought up listening to this. Probably never even thought about why is it Strilingam versus not Strilingam. It is using a Strilingam word because it is Visheshanam for the Vishesham is Tithihi, which is a Strilinga padam. Okay, so Rama Navami is Navami Tithihi iti asti tatra. So that is why it is Strilinga. And why is it Navami? Why is it not Nava? Because it is the 9th day. It is not 9 days. It is 9th day. Iti.
Okay.
But we say Navaratraha.
Yeah.
There it is 9 days. Navaratrihi. There it is 9 days. It is Samasta Padam. That is why there is no Nava is anyway Navani. So no problem. So Navaratrihi. Tatra. It is 9 days. Okay. Why is it not in Bahuvachanam? The Ratrihi? Ratrayaha? I don't know.
Ratram, I think. Navaratram.
No.
Navaratri.
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 So it to be then for it to be correct, it should be Navaratra Ratrihi Ratrau Ratrayah.
Something is there about that word.
Yes,
but
there's
now
something
I
in
forgot
Bhasha
what
Paka.
is it.
There's something specific to it about in Bhasha Paka, why it is not in Bahuvachanam. It might have been because of Laukika, the usage that has come through. I'm not entirely sure. When we find it, we'll tell you. But the Panchami, Ashtami, all that is the Visheshanam for the Tithi, which is a Strilinga Padam. So all of these are, Haraprasad Mahodaya, we are talking now instead of cardinal numbers, saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When we're doing arithmetic, Gananam Yadavayam Kurmaha Tadrisham, there we use cardinal numbers. We use just the plain number by itself, correct? Now we are adding on the 8th out of the list, the 7th out of the list.
Okay.
So we're talking about ordinal numbers now. So we have a group and we want to find out the ordered, where is the ordered position of this. So for that we use Purana Pratyayantas. That is a pratyaya, a specific pratyaya called a Purani Sankhya. So they have a Purana Pratyayanta. The Anta has that pratyaya, which is Purana Pratyayanta. That's all. Question?
Mahodaya, this all these words like Pratama, Dvidiya, Tritiya, we use in the Sankalpam when you do the pujas. We use this, it's good to know that why we are saying that Navami and Dasami are not Nava Dasaha. Now I understood the reason why, because it's a Strilinga. Yeah. But in Sankalpam we use Pratama.
I haven't paid attention, I think. Okay. Next time I'll, yes.
Dvidiya Vibhakti, sorry, Dvidiya
Vibhakti. Correct.
So in the Sankalpam, all these things are used.
I see. Okay. I'll pay attention next time. Thank you. So these Purana Pratyayantas, eti sarve tu Visheshanani eva. Etani sarvani Visheshanani. So they are all adjectives. Okay. So they have to follow the same rules as our Visheshanam. What are the rules? Yat lingam, yat vachanam, ya vibhaktihi.
All the three.
Yes, always. And it is declined in Ekavachanam, Dvivachanam, and Bahuvachanam. Okay. It is declined in all the lingas which we've already seen. There is Prathamaha, Prathama, Prathamam. In the Napumsakalingam also it is there. We also have it in Bahuvachanam. How will you use Bahuvachanam? If you want to say the first 5 boys. First 5 boys. So 5 boys, if you want to say, how do we say 5 boys?
Panchamaha Chatraha.
Panchabalakaha. We won't say Panchamaha because we don't want the 5th boy. We want 5 boys.
Okay. Panchabalakaha.
This is where now the confusion will arise, right? So you have to be careful. So 5 boys. We are talking about a Bahuvachana Shabda here, and we want all of the boys. We don't want only one of the boys. We want all of the boys. So Panchabalakaha. Now there are a lot of boys. We want the first 5 boys. So how do we say first?
Prathama.
Prathamah. Parantu atra pancha balakaha. So what is the visheshya padam? What is the noun?
Balakaha.
Balakaha. Tatra balakaha iti pade. Tatra vachanam kim? Bahuvachanam. Which means the visheshanani also have to be in the correct vachanam if it is allowed. Pancha is always pancha. We cannot change that. But the prathamaha pancha balakaha. Does that make sense? That prathamaha shabda is akaranta pullinga, just like Rama shabda. Ramaha ramau ramaha. Prathamaha pratamau prathamaha. Prathamaha pancha balakaha. So you have to, it'll be slow in the beginning when we're formulating the sentences. You start with, again, you do your anvaya. You say, okay, I'm looking at the first 5 boys. Start with the boys. Balakaha. Now 5 boys. Pancha balakaha. Now I want first. Okay, I know it is prathamaha, but it is the visheshanam of the balakaha. Hence, it has to be prathamaha pancha balakaha. Because both those words are the adjectives for balaka shabda. Does that make sense? Yes?
So there it is a dirgha.
There it is dirgha. Like Ramaha ramau ramaha. So if I want to say, I want to give the book to the first boy, there I will say, Prathamaya balakaya aham pustakam dadami. The vibhakti changes. Prathamaya, just like Ramaya, because Prathama is akaranta pullinga shabdaha. Okay? If I want to say, I want to give a book to the first 5 boys, does someone want to give it a try? I want to give the book to the first 5 boys. Katham vadamaha? Who wants to try?
Panchabhyaha
Panchamam.
balakaya.
Panchabhyaha balakaya. Samyak. Panchabhyaha balakebhyaha. Samyak. Panchabhyaha balakebhyaha. Now how do I say first 5 boys?
Prathamaha panchabhyaha balakebhyaha.
Okay. You got the vachanam correct. Idanim.
Prathamebhyaha panchebhyaha balakebhyaha.
Pratamebhyaha panchabhyaha balakebhyaha. Confusing. Definitely confusing. 100% confusing. Okay? Viralaha asti. These sort of uses are few. Usually you'll say, I want to give it to the first boy. You usually use it in ekavachanam. But when you're talking about a group, then you will use it in whatever the vachanam is. If you have 2 people, you will use it in dvivachanam. If you have multiple people, you will use it in bahuvachanam. The usage is there, but not very often. But when we have our exercises, you will find it. Just to practice. Okay? So tadrisham asti. So pratamaha pratama pratamam, dvitiyaha dvitiya dvitiyam. Tatra tadrisham eva. Until you get to navamaha navami. So look at this. The strilinge prathama dvitiya tritiya. We know that from vibhakti. Chaturthi vibhakti. We all know. It is not chaturtha vibhakti. Just chaturthi vibhakti. So from chatur shabdaha, the strilingam uses the ikaranta ending. Okay? Anytime you're confused, go back and start with your vibhakti. Prathama vibhakti, dvitiya vibhakti, tritiya vibhakti, chaturthi vibhakti. After that, everything is ikaranta. Okay? Another thing to keep in mind, this shash shabdaha, it is there to throw you off. We come and say we prathamaha, dvitiyaha, tritiyaha, which we know. Then we go chaturthaha. There is no makaranta. There is it is akaranta, but there is no ma that is ending there. So chaturthaha, which is also common use. Panchamaha is fine. We always want to go shashthamaha. Wrong. There is no ma there included. I don't know why. Shashthaha, shashthi, shashtham. Okay? Be careful there. Shashthaha. Then saptamaha, saptami, saptamam, all that, ashtamaha, all that follows the same procedure over there. You come to 11. So till dashamaha, everything is okay. Dashamaha, dashami, dashamam. The only thing in the middle that goes differently is the 6. 1, 2, and 3, you have to be careful, but we all know it is common use. Prathamam, we know it is common use. Shash, you have to be careful. Till dashamaha, dashami, dashamam, we know. Ekadashaha, from there, ekadashataha, be careful. we know Ekadashi. There is no ma. The ma is dropped. The minute you come to 11, we know Ekadashi. There is no ma. So it is Ekadashaha, Ekadashi, Ekadasham. Okay. Use the ones that we already know. Then we have our 19. As usual, we have our multiple ways of saying it. Navadashaha, Ekona Vimshaha, and Ekona Vimshati Tamaha. Let's first start with 20 and we'll come back to 19. Because why? Navadashaha we know is just continuing on in the teens. When we go into the Vimshaha, Ekona Vimshaha, what it's doing? It's taking one away from the 20. So let's start with 20. So in 20, if you look in your, for those of you who have the Parichaya book, the Parichaya book only follows the Vimshati Tamaha, the 20th. That is there. If you have the book, and unfortunately I can't put it online. If you have the book, it is there, and they go with in page number 45, there is a remember iti ekamasti to get the Purana Pratyayanta forms of the numerals from Vimshatihi onwards, 20 onwards. Tamaha, Tami, and Tamam should be affixed to the Sankhya Vachaka Shabdaha. So take the Vimshati. Vimshatihi we know is 20. Take the Vimshatihi and add on Tamaha, Tami, or Tamam. So you drop the Visarga. Vimshatihi, you drop the Visarga. Vimshati, Tamaha. Vimshati, Tami. Vimshati, Tamam. You drop the Visarga only. Everything else stays the same. Vimshati, Ekavimshati, Tamaha, Ekavimshati, Tami, Ekavimshati, Tamam. Okay. So Ekona will also be the same way. There is a Vikalpa form. What is the Vikalpa form? It is there because it makes it easier to say. It is not very hard. Instead of Vimshati, you are using Vimshaha. You are using Vimshaha, Vimshi, and Vimsham. Not as commonly used, but like Nilesh Mahodaya and all, they use it. Okay, when they want to say the page numbers. So when you're using in your exercises, when you're doing your exam and all that, use the Tamaha, Tami, and Tamam, because that is easy. You cannot make a mistake, and it is not wrong. But if you hear someone say Vimshaha, that is also not wrong. It is also in the meaning of Vimshati Tamaha. Does that make sense?
Is it used here in the ordinal thing or cardinal thing?
Ordinal. Vimshaha is the same as Vimshati Tamaha. It is not the same as Vimshatihi. Vimshatihi is the Sankhya Vachaka Padam. Vimshati Tamaha, Vimshati Tami, Vimshati Tamam are the same as Vimshaha, Vimshi, Vimsham. Next class when we come in, am I expecting you all to remember exactly all this? No. But remember that the one thing that we can all remember, starting from 20, to make the ordinal from the cardinal, we attach the Tamaha, Tami, and Tamam. Okay, that's all. We only attach that. Now, they won't leave it like that. They have to make it more complicated. You know that, right? So, when we have, say, Trimshat, it's still the same thing, but the mistake will happen. What mistake will happen? Let me show you. So, if we have, suppose we go docs, let me just go docs.google.com. So, with Vimshati, it makes sense. So, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay. So, Vimshatihi, we drop the Ihi and we make it Tamaha. Can everybody see that? I just took out the Visarga and made Tamaha. What happens with Trimshat? It likes to move. Trimshat. The problem with this one is that there is, I don't know why it does this. Wait, maybe I can do this. That's better. It's not better. It still moves. Is this okay? Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So Trimshat. Now what happens? There is nothing to drop. You don't drop the Halanta. You will keep that. You will add on a Tamaha. So when we do this, what happens to the Takaras? Trimshat Tamaha. You will add an emphasis on the Ta. There are two Takaras there. Right? There is the Takara from the Trimshat and there is a Takara from the Tamaha. That doesn't happen with the Vimshatihi, Shashtihi, all that. It doesn't happen. Okay. Shashtihi is also same. Shashtihi, what happens? You have shashtihi. You drop the visargaha and you go tamaha. Simple. When you have a takara ending, you add an extra takara. That is all. Does that make sense? Now,
Yeah.
Now when we come here, oh God, I don't know what's happened here. Sorry. I want to go slideshow because of the control plus, I think. Okay. So when we come here, it's there as a summary for you to see. This is there in case you get confused and you want to come back and see. It's there in the slides. There is one thing when we look at the Vikalpa Rupam for Vimshati, etc. There is Vimshaha, Vimshi, Vimsham. I'm only going to tell this now, this one class. After that, we are only going to use the Tamaha, Tami, and Tamam Rupam. We are not going to use the Vikalpa Rupam because I don't want to go into that confusion. Even I'm confused about it. I also make mistakes. Let's just stay with the Tamaha, Tami, Tamam. Okay. But what happens here is when we have suppose something like Pancha Panchashat. So Pancha Panchashat Tamaha. That becomes Pancha Panchashaha. Just like the Vimshaha. That is okay. What happens with the Shashti? Shashti does not have a Vikalpa Rupam. It will always use only the Tamaha, Tami, Tamam. So it's easy for us if we stick with that. Okay. Navanavatihi. Atra pashyatu. Navanavatihi becomes Navanavati Tamaha. It also becomes Navanavataha. Like the Vimshaha, that Navanavatihi, that Tihi is dropped and becomes Navanavataha. I don't know why. So it's confusing. So it is here in case you hear it somewhere and you want to come back and check, it is here. It is here in Sankshepa form. But when we do our exercises, we are going to use only the Tamaha, Tami, and Tamam. Do not get confused. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So it is here in case you need to look at it. That's all. Okay. Then Shata Tamaha, everything follows the same way. Shatam, Shatam, drop the Makara. So when we have the Shatam, drop the Makara, there Shata Tamaha. So you do not drop the ending takara of Trimshat, Chatvarimshat, and Panchashat. There they get added on and have two takaras. Shatam, Sahasram, all of that. You drop that makara and it becomes Shatatamaha. Shatatami, the 100th boy will be Shatatamaha Balakaha. Okay. I spent a long time on this, but only because there is a lot. It's not that there is a lot. It's just if we make sense of it now, it will be easier for us. Okay. Nothing else. So we'll just do one quick abhyasa because it's 12:30. Can we do just this one abhyasa? Is that okay with you all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll take 5 minutes of your time. So Haraprasad Mahodaya, why don't you start? Atra instruction etateva asti. Avarani dattayaha sankhyayaha uchitam purana pratyayanta rupam. So take avaranam is the brackets. Take the correct rupam with the purana pratyanta and fill the blanks. So start the first one.
Okay.
So first tell me the Visheshyam.
Can it be?
Tell me the lingam, vachanam and vibhakti.
Of Titihi? It is Pullinga.
Strilingam.
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 Strilingam, ekvachana.
Prathama vibhakti.
Prathama vibhakti. Yeah.
Idanim?
So Strilinga, I forgot.
That's okay. Where is it? Yeah, look.
Okay. So Strilinga Tritiya. Okay. Okay. Tritiya.
Tritiya Titihi.
Titihi. Yeah.
Just like Navami Titihi.
It is third Tithi.
Correct. The third day.
Third day.
If you wanted to say Dinankaha, that is also correct, but that becomes Pullinga. So you'll say Tritiyaha Dinankaha.
Okay.
Tadeva. Uttama. Vijayasundara Mahodaya Bhavan vadatu.
Dinam. Shashti Dinam.
So you are trying Strilingam. Tell me the lingam of Dinam.
Dinam is Napumsakalingam.
Napumsakalingam. Uttamam. So what will it be?
Sastam.
Samyak. Shashtham dinam. Bahu samyak. Uttamam. So shashti, shashtha, shashti, shashtham. Because shash is different. You correctly got it. There's no extra makara. It's shashtha, shashti, shashtham. Very good. Okay. Bhagya Mahodi bhavati agrimam karoti va?
Kakshayam. So Strilinga. Nadyam. So Saptami. Saptami bhakti. So Navamyam.
Bahu samyak.
Navamyam kakshayam. Navamyam.
Samyak. Sa navamyam kakshayam patati. Bahu samyak. Uttamam. Priya Mahode bhavati agrimam karoti va?
Yes, yeah, 6-1.
Priya Mahode asti va? Mute मध्ये अस्ति भवति. अस्ति वा? न वा? प्रीति महोदय भवती अग्रिमं करोति वा? गृहस्य.
आम् महोदय. 12 गृहस्य.
सम्यक्. नपुंसकलिङ्गं तु 12 उत्तमं. टीना महोदय भवती अग्रिमं करोतु.
बालिकां द्वितीया. बालिका 43.
So you always read backward, no? You go 3 and 40. So trayas chatvarimshat iti bhavati tatra. And then what do we do if it is more than 20? We add the tamaha, tami or tamam.
Tami,
So
yeah, tami.
Tami. And then you want to be in dvitiya. So nadim.
Tamim.
So
Trayaha chatvarimshatim balikam.
Samyak. Trayas chatvarimshatim balikam.
Traya chatvarishatim balikam.
Samyak. Uttamam.
Mahoday,
3-4.
Did I say it wrong?
3-4.
Yeah, 3-4.
3-4 balikam. Shamyatam.
3-4 is it? Add the me.
Tamim. Did I say team? Oh, yes. Thank you so much. So let's first go in Prathama Vibhakti. 3-4 is the Sankhya Vachakam. So 3-4 is the Prathama Vibhakti Ekavachanam. So 3-4 balikam. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Everybody saw how easy it was to make the mistake. Yes. Tadeva. Tina Mahode avagatavati va? Hemrani Mahode?
No,
you didn't understand. Okay, so
3-4.
3-4 is the 43, not trayas. Sorry, Shamitam. 3-4 is the Sankhya Vachakam. So you take the 3-4 and add tami. So 3-4 tami is Prathama Vibhakti Ekavachanam. Correct?
Team. Okay.
Then you keep that and you go 3-4 tamim balikam. Make sense?
Okay.
Rajashri Mahodi bhavati agrimam karoti va?
Lingam panchami athava shashti. This is 60 shashti. Shashti, shashtitami, shashtitamyaha. Samyak. Shashtitami, so hence shashtitamyaha. So the best way to not make a mistake is start with Prathama Vibhakti Ekavachanam and then move from there. So always, I guess that's our best go. Agre ka Vijay Mahode bhavan asti va? Vijay Mahode asti va?
अहं ड्रैव् करोमि।
ओ चिन्ता मास्तु क्षम्यताम् प्रिया महोदय नास्ति इति चिन्तयामि। प्रिया महोदय अस्ति वा न खलु? Haraprasad Mahodaya, you want to try the next? There are only two more. We'll finish those and go.
Okay, Geetani. Pancha. Geetani is.
So first do the Prathama Vibhakti Ekavachanam. So what is it for Pancha? When you want to make it into cardinal, Yadi Purana Pratyanta form, Madhye, Rupam. Pancha. How will you say if you want to say the festival on Pancha?
Panchami.
So what will it be in Napumsakalingam?
Pancha.
Mam.
Panchamam. Okay.
Panchamam. Okay. So Panchamam is Prathama Vibhakti Ekavachanam. Now we want what? Which Vibhakti, which Vachanam?
And this will be.
Start with the Vachanam. What is the Vachanam? Geetani.
Geetani.
Geetam, Geete, Geetani.
Yeah, okay. Prathama, yeah. Prathama Purusha Bahuvachana.
Prathama Vibhakti, no chet Dvitiya Vibhakti api Bahuvachanam.
Yeah,
so same way. So Panchamam. So make it Yat Lingam, Yat Vachanam, Ya Vibhakti. Same. Samanam.
Panchamani.
Samyak. Panchamani Geetani. Tadeva. Uttamam. Okay. I'm actually, this one, last one is Syutayoho. Syutayoho. Vijayasundara Mahadev, do you want to try?
76, right?
So, Shat Saptatihi will be the Sankhya Vachaka Shabdaha. So, how do you make Shat Saptatihi into, first of all, which lingam is that? Syutaha.
Is Napumsakalinga?
Pumlingam. Syutaha. Syutaha is Pumlingam. So we want Shat Saptatihi in Pumlingam Ekavachanam. In Purana Pratyanta Rupam. What do we have to add?
Saptati.
Tamaha.
Tamaha.
Shat Saptati Tamaha. That is the Prathama Vibhakti Ekavachanam. What is this Syutayoho? Remember Rama Yoho. Ramaha Ramau Ramaha Ramam Ramau Raman Ramena Ramabhyam Ramaihi Ramaya Ramabhyam Ramebhyaha Ramat Ramabhyam Ramebhyaha Ramasya Ramayoho. No chet Saptami api. Rame Ramayoho. So Saptami or Shashti Dvivachanam. So Syutayoho. So what do you think it's going to be? You can rhyme now. So Shat Saptati Tama
Syutayoho.
Shat Saptati Tama Yoho Syutayoho.
Tamayoho Syutayoho.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So start with just the Sankhya Vachaka, add the Tamaha, Tami, Tamam if you want for the 20 and above. After that, when you look at it, Tamaha is Akaranta Punlinga. So you'll same follow like Rama Shabdaha and you'll follow the same. Yat Lingam, Yat Vachanam, Ya Vibhakti. Once you do that, then you can just make the word and you can do it. For it is Strilingam, it is Ikaranta, Nadi Shabdavat. Okay. For Napumsakalingam, it is going to be like Phalam Shabdavat, Phala Shabdavat. That's all. So once it's like that, when you want to speak, it's going to be hard. But when you write it down, start with just the base, add on, and then do the vibhakti. Add on the, if you need the tami, tamam, tamaha, tami, tamam, you need to add that on. Otherwise, go back to our, what it should be from 1 to 20. Okay, that's all it is. We'll go into this next one when we come back into class next time, because we don't have the time. I've got the answers. So I don't know whether Akhila Mahati Bhavati Asti va?
आम् अस्ति महोदय।
गृहकार्ये पूर्णप्रत्ययान्ताः सन्ति खलु?
This one?
Do we have?
I don't know.
I don't know if we have it or not. If we have it, these slides have the, it has an Abhyasa which has the translation also there. Okay. I've already taken an extra 13 minutes. I don't want to take too much of your time, but the meanings are here. So I'll just tell you one or two. The 19th boy here, I don't know if the homework has it, so that's why I don't leave you high and dry. The 19th boy is Deepak. Start by saying, always start with your verb. Do your anvaya. The 19th boy is Deepak. Asti. Iti tatra kriyapadam asti. Asti. Kaha asti? Balakaha asti. Balakaha. Idrishaha balakaha. 19th boy. So we'll say Nava Dasha, but that is the Sankhya Vachaka. So Nava Dasha, Navadashaha. That's all we need, right? For less than 20. So Navadashaha Balakaha Deepakaha Asti. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not easy. This is not easy. But you start by leaving out the Purana Pratyanta. Leave the Purana Pratyanta out. Make the rest of the sentence. Find the Visheshyam. Make the Purana Pratyanta form in Prathama Vibhakti Ekavachanam. Then convert it to the same Lingam, Vachanam and Vibhakti as the Visheshyam. Go slow. If it is there in the homework. I haven't looked at the homework yet. Does that make sense? And there are, in these slides, there are examples for, I think there are a bunch of examples here. There's at least 10. And please ask questions in the Signal group if you need help with any of them. Is that okay? So Akshamitam, we took a little bit of time with the other things, but when we come back in next class, we'll go over this Abhyasa anyway together. And then we'll move on to Sandhikaryam. Ka asit? Haraprasad Madhya?
Yeah.
Om
Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Dhanyavadah Mahodaya.
Dhanyavadah Mahodaya.
Mahodaya, one word for the meaning of this. Shobhanam. What is the word meaning Shobhanam?
Shobhanam, Shobhate, to beautify.
To shine.
To shine. It comes from Shubh. Shubha Dhatu.
Okay.
Shubha becomes Shobhanam. That's all.
Dhanyavadah.
Rajashri Mahodaya?
Since the others are waiting for you, we can do it later if you want. Or
you know what we can do? If you ask me that question in the main Signal group, I can give you a voice message and respond and give you the answer with the Anvaya. Is that okay? I'm so sorry. We took a little bit longer to.
That's okay.